The day my parents' wills were read, I learned two things. First, my sister Olivia had somehow managed to become even more unbearable. Second, my parents were still messing with us from beyond the grave. The lawyer's office felt strangely cheerful for a place dedicated to discussing dead people. Maybe it was because Olivia was practically glowing with excitement. And the family residence, the lawyer announced, adjusting his glasses, goes to Olivia. My sister smirked. The investment accounts also go to Olivia. The smirk grew wider. The vacation properties, vehicles, and controlling interest in the family business also go to Olivia. At that point, she wasn't even trying to hide her grin. Around the room, relatives exchanged knowing looks. Nobody seemed surprised. Olivia had always been the golden child. Straight-A student. Homecoming queen. Future CEO. According to family legend, she had probably learned to walk while solving algebra problems. Meanwhile, I was the forgotten younger brother who once got grounded for accidentally setting a garden shed on fire while trying to build a homemade rocket. In my defense, the rocket worked perfectly. The shed was the problem. Olivia folded her arms and glanced at me. "Well," she said sweetly, "at least you can visit." Several relatives laughed. I considered reminding them that half those relatives still owed me money. The lawyer cleared his throat. "There is one final item." Olivia immediately sat up straighter. The lawyer reached into a folder and pulled out a small envelope. "For Ethan." My sister's face fell. "That's it?" she asked. The lawyer nodded. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten note. 3 words. "She'll never find it." Underneath was a strange symbol that looked like a combination of a treasure map and something a sleep-deprived squirrel might draw. I stared at it. "What exactly is this?" I asked. The lawyer smiled. "Your parents instructed me to give you no further explanation." Of course they did. That sounded exactly like them. Growing up, my parents had turned everything into a game. Birthday gifts came with puzzles. Holiday presents required scavenger hunts. My father once hid the television remote for 3 months because he thought it would build character. It built several arguments instead. Olivia rolled her eyes. "Whatever it is, I'm sure it's worthless." Maybe she was right. After all, she had inherited millions. I had inherited a confusing note. The following week made things worse. Since I couldn't afford my own place immediately, I stayed in the mansion temporarily. Olivia acted as if I were a raccoon she'd reluctantly allowed indoors. She immediately began planning renovations. Contractors arrived. Interior designers arrived. One man arrived carrying fabric samples and spoke about curtains for nearly 2 hours. I still have nightmares. Every day she bragged about her inheritance. Every day I stared at the note. "She'll never find it." The message kept bothering me. Late one night, unable to sleep, I wandered through the mansion carrying a flashlight. The house felt different without my parents. Quieter. Almost secretive. I eventually found myself in my father's old study. Most of the room had already been packed away for renovation. While examining a bookshelf, I accidentally bumped a framed photograph. The picture fell forward. Behind it was another piece of paper taped to the wall. My pulse quickened. On the paper was another strange symbol. And beneath it, a message. "Start where she would never look." Along with a set of coordinates. I stared at the clue. Then I looked around the dusty study. For the first time since the inheritance reading, I smiled. Because suddenly I understood something. My parents hadn't left me nothing. They had left me a challenge. And if there was one thing my parents loved more than practical jokes, it was proving people wrong. Especially Olivia. Somewhere inside this enormous mansion, they had hidden something important. Something valuable. And judging by the grin I could practically hear in my father's handwriting, it was going to drive my sister absolutely insane. For the first time in years, I couldn't wait to see what happened next. The next morning, I began treating the mansion like the world's strangest treasure map. The coordinates from the second clue led me somewhere Olivia would never willingly visit, the attic. My sister considered dust a personal attack, so naturally she hadn't set foot up there in years. The attic was packed with old furniture, family keepsakes, and enough boxes to qualify as a small city. 3 hours into my search, I found another clue hidden inside an antique clock. Along with it came something even more surprising. An old journal. It belonged to my father. At first I expected financial records or directions. Instead, I found a detailed account of the year my parents accidentally joined a cult. Apparently they had only attended because the group advertised free sandwiches. The journal contained 6 pages describing my father's disappointment when the sandwiches turned out to be mediocre. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off a ladder. At the end of the journal was another symbol. Another clue. Another location. That became the pattern. Every clue revealed a new family secret. Inside a hollow table leg I discovered evidence that my mother had secretly operated underground bingo tournaments. Hidden inside an old piano was proof that my father once pretended to be a millionaire to enter an exclusive golf competition. He won. Then spent the entire awards ceremony hiding from people asking investment advice. Meanwhile, Olivia transformed the mansion into a construction zone. Walls came down. Floors were replaced. Workers marched through the house carrying expensive materials. Every renovation threatened to destroy another clue. More than once I found myself sneaking through work areas like a criminal trying to rescue evidence before contractors threw it away. One afternoon I discovered a loose panel hidden behind a storage cabinet in the basement. The compartment contained something that definitely did not belong there. It was metallic. Smooth. Covered in strange glowing symbols. It looked less like family property and more like something stolen from a science fiction movie. I touched it. Immediately, the device activated. Blue light filled the room. I stumbled backward. A holographic figure appeared in front of me. A woman. At least she looked mostly human. Mostly. Her silver hair floated slightly above her shoulders as though gravity had become optional. Her eyes shimmered with shifting colors. I stared. She stared back. Then she sighed. "Oh good," she said. "The intelligent sibling found me." I blinked. What? The note specifically said the intelligent sibling would arrive eventually. I couldn't help smiling. That sounds like my parents. The holographic woman nodded. They were delightful. I spent several seconds processing that statement. You knew my parents? Of course. She looked genuinely confused. Why else would I be hiding inside their basement? That was a fair question. Over the next hour, she explained everything. Years earlier, her research vessel had crash-landed on Earth during a survey mission. My parents had discovered her. Instead of panicking, they had apparently invited her to dinner. The story somehow became stranger from there. As repayment for helping her remain hidden, she had assisted them with several financial projects and secret investments. Together they had built a fortune. A very large fortune. A fortune currently hidden somewhere inside the mansion. How large? I asked. The hologram smiled. Approximately $27 million. My jaw nearly hit the floor. 27 million. Suddenly every clue made sense. My parents hadn't hidden a few savings accounts. They had hidden a fortune. The alien woman folded her arms. I should warn you. About what? Your sister would be terrible at this. I laughed. You're not wrong. She lacks curiosity. You figured that out already? I met her once. The alien paused. It was exhausting. I laughed even harder. For the first time since my parents died, the treasure hunt actually felt fun. Together we began studying the clues. She translated symbols I couldn't understand. I explained human behavior she found ridiculous. The conversations became easier with every passing day. She was clever, funny, and completely unimpressed by wealth. Unlike almost everyone else in my family. As evening approached, we solved another piece of the puzzle. The next clue confirmed what we already suspected. The hidden fortune was real. And Olivia still had absolutely no idea it existed. Watching her brag about inheriting everything suddenly became far more entertaining. The more clues we solved, the stranger things became. The more time I spent working with the holographic alien, the less I wanted our conversations to end. She called herself Lyra, and despite being from a civilization thousands of years ahead of humanity, she found human family drama endlessly entertaining. Especially mine. One evening she watched Olivia storm through the mansion while yelling at 3 contractors, a landscaper, and someone from a luxury furniture company. "Is she always like this?" Lyra asked. "Actually, she's in a good mood today." Lyra stared at me. Then she laughed so hard her hologram flickered. Unfortunately, Olivia eventually noticed something was different. For weeks she had enjoyed treating me like a temporary inconvenience. Now I was suddenly cheerful, focused, busy. That made her suspicious. One morning she cornered me in the kitchen. "What are you hiding?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "Nothing." You smiled. "What?" You smiled. "People do that." "Not you." Apparently my sister believed happiness was evidence of criminal activity. By the following week, she launched a full investigation. First came hidden cameras. I found one disguised as a decorative owl. Another was hidden inside a fake plant. A third was somehow attached to a lamp. When I unplugged the lamp, it started recording upside down. Then she hired a private investigator. The investigator lasted 3 days before quitting after Olivia demanded hourly updates about my suspicious walking patterns. After that she hired a psychic. The psychic wandered through the mansion waving crystals and confidently announced that the hidden treasure was located inside a dolphin. Nobody knew what that meant. Not even the psychic. Meanwhile, Lyra and I continued following the actual clues. One clue was hidden inside an old recipe book. Another was concealed behind a family portrait. One particularly frustrating clue required us to search 37 identical storage boxes in the basement. The correct box contained a note that simply read, "Patience." I could practically hear my father laughing. The clues also revealed increasingly embarrassing family secrets. We discovered proof that my parents had spent years staging fake arguments during family gatherings. The fights had never been real. They simply enjoyed watching relatives choose sides. One recording showed my parents secretly scoring everyone's reactions afterward. My aunt received a score of 2 out of 10 for dramatic performance. My uncle somehow received negative points. When those recordings surfaced, family group chats exploded into complete chaos. Relatives began accusing one another of poor acting abilities. It was magnificent. Through all of it, Lyra stayed by my side. What started as teamwork gradually became something else. She listened when I talked about always feeling overlooked. She understood things I had never managed to explain to anyone. One night while solving another clue, she looked at me quietly. "Your parents trusted you." I shrugged. "They trusted Olivia too." "No." Her eyes softened. "They trusted Olivia with possessions." She pointed toward the clues. "They trusted you with the truth." For a moment neither of us spoke. My chest felt strangely warm. Nobody had ever put it that way before. The moment was interrupted by a loud crash downstairs. We rushed to investigate. Olivia had apparently found part of the clue trail. Unfortunately, she misunderstood it completely. Convinced she had located the hidden fortune, she gathered several relatives and broke open a sealed storage room. Inside was not money. Inside were hundreds of old videotapes. My parents' old videotapes. The first recording immediately began playing. It showed 12-year-old Olivia attempting to sing at a school talent show. Very badly. The second recording showed her falling into a decorative pond. The third featured her losing an argument with a goat. Within minutes the entire family was laughing. Olivia turned bright red. I honestly felt a little bad for her. Very little. While everyone was distracted by decades of embarrassment, Lyra and I focused on the final clue hidden among the tapes. A symbol. A location. A final instruction. We stared at it together. After months of searching, we finally knew where the treasure was hidden. And if the clue was correct, $27 million was waiting just beneath our feet. The final clue led beneath the oldest part of the mansion. At 3 in the morning, while Olivia was busy arguing with a contractor about imported marble, Lyra and I quietly made our way into the basement. The last symbol from the videotapes matched a marking carved into the foundation wall. For several minutes I searched for a hidden mechanism. Then I noticed something engraved beneath the symbol. A tiny message. "Push harder." I laughed. "That's definitely Dad." I pressed against the wall. Nothing happened. I pushed harder. A loud click echoed through the basement. A section of stone slowly slid aside. Behind it was a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Lyra smiled. "We found it." My heart pounded as we followed the stairs downward. At the bottom waited a steel vault door. Not a small safe. A real vault. The kind usually found in banks or action movies. Beside it was a scanner connected to ancient-looking technology. The moment I approached, the system activated. A green light flashed. The vault opened. For several seconds I simply stared. Inside were rows of secure containers, stacks of precious metals, investment documents, encrypted storage drives, and legal files. The amount of wealth hidden inside was unbelievable. My parents hadn't exaggerated. Neither had Lyra. $27 million. Maybe more. Then a screen mounted on the wall suddenly came to life. My parents appeared. A pre-recorded message. My father grinned immediately. "Well, if you're watching this, congratulations." My mother laughed. "Or condolences. Depending on how long it took you." I smiled despite myself. My father pointed toward the camera. "Olivia, if you're the one watching this, somebody probably helped you." My mother nodded. "Which means Ethan is probably standing nearby rolling his eyes." I was. They knew me too well. My mother's expression softened. "We loved both of you. But," my father added, "we knew one of our children valued possessions more than people. And we knew the other valued curiosity." The room became quiet. My mother continued. "The mansion, business, and visible assets were never the real inheritance. The real inheritance," my father said, "was hidden behind effort." They explained everything. The treasure hunt had been a final test. Not of intelligence. Not of luck. Of character. Olivia always chased what was obvious. What looked valuable. What impressed other people. I searched because I genuinely wanted answers. Because I cared about the puzzle itself. The hidden fortune legally belonged to whoever completed the trail. And according to every document inside the vault, that person was me. At that exact moment, a familiar voice echoed down the staircase. "What?" "Olivia." "Of course." She stormed into the vault. Several relatives followed behind her. Apparently curiosity was contagious when millions of dollars were involved. The family lawyer arrived shortly afterward and reviewed the documents. The verdict was immediate. The fortune belonged entirely to me. Olivia looked ready to explode. "This isn't fair." The lawyer calmly adjusted his glasses. "It is extremely fair." Then he handed her several folders. "What are these?" "Maintenance reports." Her expression changed. Then came tax records. Debt obligations. Property expenses. Payroll responsibilities. Renovation costs. Deferred repairs. By the time she finished reading, her face had gone completely pale. The mansion required a fortune to maintain. The business needed constant attention. Several assets generated expenses rather than profits. For years she had assumed she received the better deal. Now she realized she had inherited responsibility. I had inherited freedom. The reactions from relatives were even funnier. The same people who had mocked me suddenly became incredibly friendly. One uncle offered investment advice. An aunt wanted to organize family dinners. A cousin suggested we become best friends again. I politely declined. For once, I didn't need anyone's approval. A week later, I purchased a comfortable home of my own. Nothing extravagant. Just enough space to enjoy life. Meanwhile, Olivia remained trapped inside the gigantic mansion she had fought so hard to own. The greatest surprise came from Lyra. Her mission on Earth was technically complete. The hidden fortune had been found. The agreement with my parents had been fulfilled. One evening we sat together watching the sunset. "So," I asked quietly, "when do you leave?" She smiled. "I already submitted my report. And I informed my people that I would be extending my stay." I stared at her. "You can do that?" "I already did." For the first time since meeting her, the brilliant alien researcher looked slightly nervous. "I discovered something interesting on Earth." "What?" Her eyes met mine. "You." I couldn't stop smiling. Neither could she. Months later, life felt completely different. Not because of the money. Because of the people who mattered. My parents had left behind one final lesson. Arrogance sees only what's in front of it. Curiosity discovers what everyone else misses. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks ends up winning everything. Even the girl from another world.